And we're good to go. Hello,
Sweet.
everybody. This is Lioconvoy here, and I'm here with a special guest of mine who goes by the name NekoBoyOfficial. Why don't you greet everybody, NekoBoy?
Hello, everyone.
So, NekoBoy, why don't you go ahead and tell us what you do here on the YouTube?
Well, originally I started out just posting my music on YouTube and trying to find different avenues of kind of getting people on board. I've tried to broaden my horizons, like doing reviews and just kind of whatever really that comes to mind.
All right. So, you're apparently interested or are a fan of the 2011 ThunderCats. Is that accurate?
Yes, that is the series that introduced me to the franchise.
Well, why don't you go ahead and tell me how you got interested in that and what led you to enjoy it?
I remember going to a movie, don't remember which one, and I walked in as the trailer was playing for this, and I thought, "Holy crap, this looks epic!" So I watched the premiere of it, and I just fell in love with it. I thought it was a really good show, and I knew of ThunderCats, but I didn't really grow up with it, so I kind of had to do some backtracking, I guess, and I still favor the 2011 show personally, but I do have a lot of respect for the original.
All right. Real quick, going to address the chat. Hey, everybody. How's it going? Jeb Jam, Yves Le Renaissance, Jeffrey Soffin, and Stun CGND. Glad you guys joined us. Feel free to ask any questions relating to the 2011 or original show while you're in the chat. So, got a question for you, Neko. You just started watching the 2011 series right off the bat. I wasn't even aware that they had ads for it in movies, so that's new to me. What about the show that you saw that you enjoyed very much? What drew you to it?
Well, the very first thing is that I was into anime, so that was immediately one, and I I guess it was like a charm of the show. It felt natural, it felt authentic, and the action was really good too.
Were you also having issues like most of us were concerning the scheduling of the show?
Later on, I did notice some changes. Yeah, actually, in fact, I think this was near the end of the first season. They were airing it, I believe, on Sunday mornings, which definitely raised an eyebrow.
Huh. That's different. I didn't know they were airing it on Sunday mornings. I know for a while they had it on Saturday mornings, but man, it may guess it.
Yeah, at first it was Friday nights, then Saturday mornings, and then I think they just shoved it to Sunday mornings.
Oh goodness, yeah, they never did give that series, never did give that series the treatment it needed, did they?
Yeah, I'm curious what their intentions were, considering they're the professionals.
Well, we can go into a little bit of that if you want here in a little bit, but what other highlights do you have on your channel exactly? What animes tend to pique your interest?
Personally, Inuyasha is a big favorite of mine.
Mm-hmm.
One Punch Man, and the new Voltron series.
Oh, good. You ever see the original Voltron series?
Yes. So actually, I grew up watching that one, and I still found the new one to be better, in my opinion.
Did you ever see the unedited Japanese version of the original Voltron?
I did come across a couple videos, yeah.
It is brutal, man. Like if you ever sit down and watch the original Beast King Go line, you're gonna think the people who put together the original Voltron were just deities of editing because they had to cut a lot of stuff out.
Yeah, and I mean, even as a kid, I thought the voice acting, at least for the English dub, was a little cardboard, if you know what I mean.
Oh, absolutely. Not gonna disagree on that one.
So I think for most anime dubs, that was the issue anyways, whether it's because, I mean, it wasn't exactly big in the West, so maybe they didn't take it that seriously.
I think they took it seriously. It's just most animation, if not all of it, the process is generally the same in terms of production. So where you have the voice acting, and then the animation. So trying to do voice acting after the animation is extremely difficult. So I think that's what the early dubs really struggled with, in all honesty.
Yeah, and with new technology, it's easier to do that and to sync it.
Let's see here. Got Faye. Don't worry, Jeremy. We're not just going to randomly scream. That's not how I operate.
Yeah, I'd rather not peek my microphone.
No. Okay, so we're gonna go into discussing a bit of the 2011 series' issues in terms of scheduling and all that. First thing I got to ask, Neko, is did you ever pick up any of the figures from the Bandai line when this thing was out?
No, I did not. I mean, I might have came across them, but as a kid, the only action figures I bought were Star Wars, so I mean, it didn't really come across my mind that the show was struggling when it was airing.
Well, that's fine. It's more of a... I'm trying to gauge here. And what I mean by gauge is because I'm probably a bit older than you in general. I watched what happened when Bandai tried to put their waves out. And what happened is, number one, a lot of retailers didn't get any of it. They wanted fans to ask retailers to carry it, and that's not how marketing works. And the quality of the toy line was very low.
Yeah, later on, like, you know, after they finished up the series and I realized it was canceled, I did like look into the toys and stuff, and I thought they were kind of cheap. Like the bolts were kind of bulky and obvious. I didn't try covering that.
The bolts in general were very obvious, but just so you know, Stunty, the ones I'm referring to specifically are from the 2011 specific line. The 6-inch figures were okay. The 3 and 3.25 inch ones had issues, specifically the Thunder Tank. It tended to literally fall apart if you picked it up. So here's the thing, and this is kind of what crazy happened back in 2011. A lot of people were hoping that Mattel would get the right to the new ThunderCats cartoon to produce figures, because Mattel's generally pretty good for their regular release action figures of humanoid toy lines, right? And they were hoping that Bandai would get the rights to do the Voltron toy line for the 2012 series that was coming out the next year. If you haven't seen that series, don't worry, it was garbage.
That was the one on Nickelodeon, right?
Yeah, that was the Nickelodeon one.
Yeah, even I said, no, that I don't know where to start.
But what happened actually is that Mattel got the rights to Voltron, and Bandai got the rights to ThunderCats. So it was a giant wave of bizarreness to begin with, and Bandai just could not handle or market the line properly. They flubbed the entire thing. Go ahead.
I do remember at Hot Topic they had ThunderCats shirts, and in fact, I bought a jacket.
Yeah, Hot Topics always carried ThunderCats merchandise in terms of clothing when it's out. And yes, Dunsey, DC Universe and Motu Classics was Mattel. Motu Classics specifically, it was the Matty Collector line from Mattel. Now, when it comes to Bandai, one of the problems was, of course, you know, the obvious back bolts, the somewhat flimsy designs, and the, what's the word I'm looking for? Joints weren't always the color they were supposed to be. And then in the middle of the Classics run, they completely change the scale. So it went from an 8-inch scale to a 6-inch scale, and people started to have to recollect all over again. It was a massive mess. And the problem with this is, if you'll notice the original airing of the 2011 show, the first, I think, 13 episodes were played on Friday night. Well, what happened with Cartoon Network is they put it in a primetime spot where people my age were watching it, but kids weren't, because, you know, in the modern age, when kids come home on a Friday night, they don't tend to watch cartoons. They'll play video games or go to their friend's house or whatever. So people my age were watching it. The toys weren't moving very well because they were substandard quality. So they decided that they would move the series to Saturday mornings to try to get the kids interested. But by the time the kids were watching it and wanting the figures had already been pulled from shelves after being discounted, and Bandai had lost the rights to it.
Does not sound very coordinated.
It's not. It wasn't coordinated at all, and due to other things that happened during Cartoon Network's run of that series, and due to other things that happened in the halls of Warner Brothers, they intentionally killed the series.
And then they ran with Legends of Chima, which I think they partially went with because it was cheaper.
Without question, because it's cheaper. Because there's something a lot of people don't understand about the ThunderCat license, and I don't expect them to unless they do a lot of digging. Warner Brothers owns the ThunderCats license. They own it completely, and that's fine. But when it came to the 2011 series, what they do with most of the time they have cartoons for stuff like this is Studio 4 Degrees Celsius was, of course, the animation company behind it. What Warner Brothers did was 4 Degrees Celsius had to buy the license from Warner Brothers to make a ThunderCats cartoon, and people from Warner Brothers had to work on the cartoon. So that was already a lot of money sunk into this thing. It wasn't marketed well. It wasn't put out well. The toy line bombed, and they decided to just go with Lego Chima because it could be done cheaply, could be done in-house, and Legos are, well, they're fairly reusable. So they killed off almost every single aspect of their action block because comedy cartoons were selling. It was a giant perfect storm of madness.
Yeah, I remember over time. Oh, hello?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. I thought I lost it for a second, but
Nah.
anyways, yeah, I remember I noticed that at one point, like 2012 or 13, there was practically no DC, no nothing. I remember I think they specifically had a DC action block.
Mm-hmm. They wound up killing that sucker right off.
And I know for me that was kind of sad because I prefer the action shows anyways.
Yeah, a lot of people like action shows, myself of course included, but we haven't had very many good ones recently. Let me go ahead and pick your brain a little bit. What would you say is your favorite episode of the 2011 show?
Of the 2011 show. I'm trying to think. Well, I'd say I guess one of the most memorable ones would be with the what are those like bear robots called?
Robert Burbles.
Yes, I remember. Yeah, I would say that was. I mean, I would at least say that was one of the more memorable ones because seeing a Wily Kid and Wily Cat on a sugar high was an interesting experience.
Oh yeah. So how much of the original show have you been able to watch now?
I think I only watched part of like half of the first season. So being honest, not that much.
I mean, I wouldn't expect you to lie for no reason, so.
Yeah. Oh, actually, before we move on, I would say one of my favorites, trying to remember the name of the episode, but it's where Lino goes into that town full of swordsmen where everyone duels. And
The Drifter.
yeah, the Drifter. I'd say that was my favorite episode, storytelling wise, and just giving Lino a humbling experience.
Those are important things for young men to have, in my opinion.
Yeah, that was, at least for me, one of the deepest episodes.
You know, the fun thing is when that episode first came out, people were asking Dan Norton, the animation director, if he had based the Drifter by any chance on the comic character Usagi Yojimbo. And apparently he didn't. He was aware the character existed, but he originally was going to design the Drifter as a mouse. So I don't really know how, but it somehow went from a mouse to a rabbit because he wanted the greatest swordsman in Third Earth to be a unexpectable character, or unexpected creature, something very small in stature.
Yeah, and when they introduce him, he just seems very laid back. Almost carefree and mindless.
So now that you had a taste of both the 2011 series and the original one, who would you say is your favorite between the two characters? Or who would you say is your favorite character between the two series?
I mean, I'd probably say Lino from the 2011. I personally felt like he had a little bit more personality.
All right, that's fair. And by the way, chat, you guys are more than welcome to ask any questions here. It's okay.
Like, and elaborating on that, I think as having him be a teenager, having to accept the throne, kind of forced upon him, I think that just naturally gave him a lot of room to learn and build throughout the show.
So, what do you think about what you heard concerning the information about the second season?
About what specifically?
Well, I don't know if you have kept up to date on it, but at a PowerCon in 2013, Dan Norton actually gave out detailed information about what was going to happen in the second season.
Yeah, like Snarf's origins.
Snarf's origins, what they were going to do with Pumira, what they were going to do with Liono, all that stuff.
Yeah, because I think at least at that time they heard nothing from Cartoon Network, and their fear was that the show was over.
Well, they kind of apparently had confirmation of that beforehand, but
okay.
I believe at the time Daniel Norton was still contracted through Warner Brothers. So that's why you didn't hear until later everything that went down, because he was contracted and had to keep quiet about all of it.
Yeah.
But the reason why I asked you about stuff like that is, as I told you in our DMs on Twitter, Daniel Norton has been working on Thundercat related stuff since at least the early 2000s. And if you look at issue 0 of the Wildstorm Thundercats run, you'll see a sketch he did of Panthro, which is almost exactly identical to the Panthro design he had for the 2011 series. Now, in the second season, Lionel was going to go into the Book of Omens and do training for about 10 years or so. I don't know if you remember that part of the interview. That's also taken directly from the Wildstorm run of Thundercats for the Return series. So it's pretty clear that Mr. Norton was reflecting back on his original work when he was working on this new series.
Yeah, I know of the Return series, but I haven't read it yet.
I don't think it's certainly not my favorite of the run. It's very dark. Then again, the second season of the 2011 cartoon was going to be pretty dark too. But it's a very dark series and took the Thundercats in a bizarre direction.
Yeah, although I would say, I think they did a good job of trying to balance it out with some of the more lighthearted moments.
Now, I know you're rather fond of anime, correct?
Yeah.
All right. So have you ever really dug through the roots of Thundercats and its connection to anime?
I believe the original was also animated in Japan.
Yes, it was. But there's something very interesting about that. In the 1970s, Rankin Boss's animation was done by a studio called Topcraft. And this is the animation studio that did the original animated Hobbit movie. They did Flight of Dragons. They did The Last Unicorn.
All the holiday stop motion.
The holiday stop motion was done in-house. That wasn't done by Rankin. That wasn't done by Topcraft, thankfully.
Oh, okay.
But here's the interesting thing. In the 1980s, Topcraft split into two different companies. The company that made Thundercats, Silverhawks, and Tiger Sharks was Pacific Animation Corporation. Do you have any idea who the other company was that they split into?
No.
It actually wound up becoming Ghibli Animation.
Oh.
Yeah, Studio Ghibli. And when Pacific Animation Corporation closed down and became Disney Japan, a lot of the original animators went and worked for Studio Ghibli. And I know the individual whose name I can't for the life of me pronounce off the top of my head, who directed the original... What?
Hayao Miyazaki?
Not Hayao Miyazaki. The person who directed the original Thundercats intro.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah, he actually went on to be the animation director for Naruto and Bleach. So these people are still alive, kicking, and out there doing stuff in animation. I think it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's a pretty good resume.
And see, you got Viva la Renaissance. Yes, it was very, very edgy. Some of it was kind of cool because you got to see Lionel decide that he's had enough of things, and at one point even Snaps a monkey in neck. That was kind of cool. And then we have Stuncy. The return deserves an adaptation. I was a big fan of Lionel's design in that storyline. I mean, he just kind of, for the most part, ran around in a black ninja outfit. So I guess that was an interesting design.
I thought it looked cool.
It does look cool. I've been working on a custom for that for like a year now, but I haven't been able to get around to it. Any other questions from the chat concerning the 2011 series? Give them a moment to respond. You're not used to live streams, are you, NekoBoy?
I've done a couple. Well, okay. The obvious one with Marmaduke Fan, and I did another one, I think, a year prior. But I'm never the host.
I like Marmaduke Fan. I think he's a good guy.
Yeah, me too. After I caught wind of his ThunderCats video, I started watching his other stuff.
Oh, Marmaduke, that dude gets into some trouble on the Twitter.
Although what I liked about his video is that he did something different from the other guys. He went into the original people who worked on the original show and, went into the spirit of it and why and how they came up with everything.
Yeah, that was actually a really interesting in-depth look. And if you ever want to look really in-depth in the original series without having to like ping me on Twitter, if you have a Kindle app on your phone or on your computer, you can download a book called Hear the Roar. And it was compiled about 2011, 2012. It's got a whole bunch of detailed information about the original ThunderCats cartoon compiled by people who worked on it.
Oh, cool.
So you can get all that stuff. And it's only about $7.
And it looks like we got
some questions. Why don't you take the lead on these, my man?
All right, so let's see. From Stuncy G&D, do you think the show would have been ultimately successful if CNN had treated it with more respect and care? I would personally say yes. It would at least have a modest run. I obviously don't have a background in marketing or whatever, but I think they would have if they were more organized. Like we mentioned prior, they had the scheduling and the toys set and prepared when it was supposed to be and not disjointed like it was.
Yeah. There's also the fact that Cartoon Network, whenever they really promote a series, it tends to do well because marketing is effective. And when the 2011 series was about marketing for it, but after it premiered, they did no marketing for it. Had they given it the same type of marketing they would have for like Adventure Time or regular show, which are both fine shows, not gonna raise any eyebrows to those, I think it would have been more successful. I know the series. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, and therefore the high cost producing it wouldn't have been an issue.
Absolutely. And I think one of the biggest detriments is when you have a show that was very toyetic, like ThunderCats original and the modern one tended to be, you're going to want to actually put out a toy line that's not going to fall apart and make everybody hate it.
Yeah.
So I think it would have been better. I know they got greenlit for 52 episodes, but they were only able to produce about 20-something of them. All right, so you want to go ahead and follow up with the next question by CadNo2099?
Sure. What do you think of the tech aspects of the 2011 series, like the redesign of the Thunder Tank?
Well, go ahead and tell me your thoughts, man.
The tech aspects. I don't know. That's something I really haven't thought too much about. How about you take that one, and I'll see if I can elaborate.
My issue, as much as I like mechs, I like really well-designed vehicles, I just don't think you're going to get much better than the original Thunder Tank because it looks exactly like it is. It is a giant kiddie tank. And the modern Thunder Tank from 2011 didn't really look all that cat-like. And because of how it was designed on the show, it didn't transfer well into toy designs. And that's something a lot of artists struggle with. A NekoBoy, have you ever been to an anime convention?
Yes, SakuraCon, in fact.
Okay, SakuraCon. So you've seen a lot of cosplayers out there, right?
Yep.
How many of them that you've seen, struggled to put their outfits together because the person who created that outfit didn't really think somebody would ever wear that outfit? It's something like that. So you get a really bizarre costume design that people have a hard time replicating in cosplay. You also have a bizarre vehicle design that toy manufacturers have a hard time replicating without being self-destructive, like the new Thunder Tank was. So
yeah, I see what you mean.
So that's where I think they went a little bit off base, and they had one playset for the line called the Tower of Omens, and the thing literally also falls apart because it's not functionally made. It's just cheap plastic.
Yeah, that's not how you keep customers.
No, it is not.
And I did one thing that came to mind is about the tech in the show. One thing I didn't like, I thought was really weird, was when they gave Panthro those like mechanical stretchy arms. That felt I felt like they jumped the shark a bit.
Yeah, just a little bit. I can't really say I care for Panthro kind of being shifted into comedy relief. I never thought that was his strong point.
Yeah, like, I mean, having some here and there is okay, but in general, he's not good as the relief.
True. We got Hipster Sister here if you want to take over that question.
Would you think it would work if they incorporated a new character for the group, like how Transformers introduced Bulkhead? Personally, I thought the chemistry between the characters was fine as it is. I don't think adding a new character would have added anything personally.
Well, I think that they didn't need to make a new character for the series, even though they did with plenty of other aspects of the series. If you're really knowledgeable about ThunderCats lore, there are so many characters you can pick for him, like Lynxana, who showed up only in the comics. She was an ex-Thunderian, an ex-Thundercat, just like Groon was, but she was a bounty hunter. So maybe it would have added a new dynamic in the 2011 show if instead of Pumira betraying the Thundercats, say Mumra hired Lynxana to hunt them down. That would have been, in my opinion, interesting. So while I think Bulkhead is a better character in Transformers Prime, I think Transformers Animated did a good job introducing that new character because he had a decent dynamic with Bumblebee. So if you're going to introduce a new character for the core set of individuals that you're focusing on, he or she has to have really good chemistry.
Oh, here's a good one from Faye. Any negative reactions about any of the characters' personalities in the 2011 show?
Well, what do you think?
Well, one thing I thought was a little cliche is that they had sort of a love triangle between Tigra, Lino, and Chitara. And, I mean, they didn't make it too obvious, which helped. So it was more kind of hidden emotions or whatever, but it still felt a little cliche and not... Like, I know, I didn't feel like there's much built up.
Kind of out of left field, huh?
Yeah.
From the perspective of an older fan, especially of the older series, there wasn't any sort of romantic things in the original cartoon, so it feels kind of ham-fisted to shove it into the reboot.
Yeah.
My biggest complaint, because I'm an old man and this is what we do is we complain, I really didn't like what they did to Tigra's character. I've never...
which part?
Him just being an egotistical douchebag.
Yeah, I can, because in the original show, he was more mature and kind of the leader, right?
He was the man's man. He was a straight man. He was, I'm there for you, Lion-O, because I don't really get much spotlight. They actually wound up leaving me on Third Earth for the second season. That's what. And I can understand wanting to build on that character, but I think one of the biggest problems the 2011 series had, and again, this is because I'm an old fuddy-duddy, I think they went too far in trying to turn things on their head. So
yeah, like,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, a lot of things I think they did a good job on, kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Giving respect to the original series, but I would agree with you. I think they made him a little too hot-headed.
Yeah, and I really didn't care for the, hey, I should be king, and everything I'm doing proves I really should be king. But yeah, I'm going to try to kill you in the Shadow Realm for reasons unspecified.
Yeah, like I was going to say, I can understand the rivalry by how they set up the two growing up together. But yeah, the whole killing you thing, it's a little overboard, personally. Because, I mean... Yeah, there was rivalry, but there wasn't hate towards each other, and they never expressed that prior.
Now, this is going to be a bizarre complaint from me, but one of my other main complaints I just didn't like how they did Mum-Ra. I think Mum-Ra is one of those villains that's by his nature he's very demonic, very evil, and he's supposed to be really scary. And I don't think the 2011 Mum-Ra was scary. I think he's literally flying around in a giant space pyramid creating mutant animals. That doesn't scream scary to me.
Yeah, in fact, I can't remember if it was you or someone else showed it like a side-by-side comparison of the new versus the old one, and the old one does look a lot scarier because the new one, I guess, it feels like he was drawn a little too proportionally, too perfectly.
Yeah.
Oh, and here's a good one from Evle Renaissance. I think it was something about Snarf. What do you think of 2011 Snarf? Is he better, worse? I personally think he's better because Snarf gets really old after a while. And I mean, Snarf was still, in the new one, he was still a comic relief, but he wasn't like in your face or annoying personally. He didn't get in the way too much.
Firstly, how dare you? No, you're welcome. I'm just messing with you, man. It's okay. Have you gotten the chance to look at my Snarf video?
No, I have not.
All right, you might want to check that out sometime because it's actually interesting when you sit back and dissect the original Snarf's personality. If you don't mind me asking, about what is your age here?
22.
Okay, so I've got about a decade on you. So if you go back and you re-examine the original Snarf, especially when you're much older, you see a different perspective on him. And you got to also keep in mind, Snarf is the literally only member of the team with no metahuman abilities. So if I was stuck on a planet filled with monsters, creatures, and a devil priest, I'd probably whine and complain a lot too.
You know, that's a good point, because I mean, genocide is a bit of a downer.
Just a little bit. Let's see. Vive la Renaissance says, what do we think of the voice acting between two series? What do you think, Neko?
Similar to a prior comment, I think the newer series had a little more personality. It felt a little more natural, I guess, whereas the older one, it felt more like they were putting on a play, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean,
well, there's actually a reason for that, believe it or not.
Okay, I'm curious to hear, actually.
Okay, firstly, the original cartoon put most of its budget into the animation, because have you seen any other 80s cartoons other than the original ThunderCats?
Well, there was the Voltron, as I mentioned, and
I'm talking about within like the context of an American production.
Transformers, actually, yeah.
So you've seen the type of shenanigans that happen in most 80s animations at the time.
Yeah.
So they put most of their budget to the animation. So what happened was they cut back in other places, like other companies will. So you had, I'd say, a good 40 to 50% of the characters voiced by one guy alone. So Bob McFadden, the guy who voiced Snarf, also voiced Slithe, and he voiced Groon, and he voiced all these other characters. And the guy who did Lion-O, Larry Kinney, did Jackalman. Peter Newman, who did Tiger, he did Monkey. And so not only do you have multiple people doing multiple roles, but a lot of these people actually were actors. Earl Hyman, the person who did the voice of Panthro, was actually a Shakespearean Othello actor. Very fluent in Scandinavian.
I guess it kind of shows. And when you are an actor and move into voice acting, it's not quite the same because with acting, your body is also, showing the character. But when you're just giving the voice, you have to work on it a little bit more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you know what Earl Hyman said the secret to his performance was?
No.
He pretended he was talking to his cats. See? No, I enjoyed the voice acting on both of them for the most part. Of course, there were characters that you just wish you could rip your ears off hearing them talk, but I think both did well for what they were planned to. And Hipster Sister says she agrees on Tiger's character. He had a punchable face. I don't disagree. Ooh, we need to catch up here.
Which one had a punchable face?
Tigra from the 2011 series. Let's see.
I mean, while his personality might have been great, I thought he looked all right.
Well, his design's fine, but I think that's more in reference to his.
Okay.
Let's see. Didn't need an AC rivalry. Maybe Thundercats need more heroines. And here's the interesting thing, Scarpy Harpy. Thundercats, from the original series to even the more modern one, all the female characters in the series were actually written pretty competently. Chitara wasn't the damsel in distress. Neither was Pumira. And in the modern series, Chitara, of course, also isn't a damsel in distress. And
well, in fact, she's a royal guard.
Yeah, and Pumira, well, she wants to kill everything. But I think that advancing Wily Kit's character more, or introducing other female characters, or even reintroducing them, like getting Jagara in there, or you could do a lot with it. So yeah, we could use more heroines, but at the same time, we don't want to detract from the fact that we have some pretty substantial ones as well. And of course, Eve the Renaissance is comparing Tigra to Scar. I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, I mean, Scar, while dark and brooding, was at least funny when he did it.
Sometimes they went all Shakespearean. Cadno, a lot of the original Thundercats writers were very fond of Shakespeare and Arthurian lore. Blinking, he's talking about Snarf now. They turned him into a Pokemon.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people said when the show came out.
Well, funny thing about that is, one reason why people say that?
Why?
You know who did Snarf's voice in the 2011 series?
The same voice for Pikachu?
Bingo.
I was going to say, there's a very, I mean, you can kind of hear it.
Let's see. Scarpy. Renaissance thinks the Snarf in the 2011 series was cute. Well, I don't think there's a 2011 version, but you can buy a Snarf plush on the internet if you really want it.
Is it the original?
Yes. It was done by Mezco, actually. And Scarpy Harpy says, talk with animals. I don't talk with animals. I tell them what to do, and they ignore me. And Hipster Sister says...
That's called a cat.
Yes, I have cats. Thank you for noticing. They usually just meow at me or try to bite my hand. Hipster Sister says...
Every cat owner knows you don't own a cat.
They own you. And yes, Scarpy Harpy Lim Lipton did do the Warrior Maidens. She also did literally every other female character until the second season.
Oh, we got another question from
Stuncy.
Do you think the Thundercats worked better deeply entwined with the lore of Third Earth, or as outsiders just doing their part?
What do you think?
I'm trying to think here, because in the original series, they came to Third Earth after their planet was destroyed, right?
Yeah.
Personally, I liked the lore of Third Earth in the newer series because there's kind of a mystery to it, and over time you learn little by little what happened. Though, I'm curious what your thoughts are, since you know a lot more about the original.
I prefer the other, due to the fact that I find it fascinating when characters show up to a new place. And I find the Thundercats very interesting because they're more technologically advanced than every group on Third Earth. But they never show up on Third Earth and say, hey, we're taking over everything. They're the nice next door neighbor that moved in your neighborhood. And on the other side is that jerk neighbor who kicks your dog. And that guy wants them gone because they're nice to everybody and he hates them. So I like that idea. I like the idea of, the foreigner showing up and being a positive influence.
Yeah, I can understand that. And one of the things I do like about how the new was set up is that a lot of the people inside the city, like including Lino himself, thought, oh, everything's fine and dandy. Everyone lives like us. And then he realizes, oh, haven't been outside that often. Yikes.
Maybe he was inside playing that there Xbox. Oh wait, yeah, he's from a place with no technology somehow. So
I think
it was Jax.
I think it works in its own way. It gives it its own path of discovery and character building.
Now, I think either could work if they're written competently.
I think the, at least in 2011 series, was somewhat competent because they did have to earn the trust of a lot of people along the way.
Mm-hmm. Now, I will say, and I've said this before in other conversations, I don't think any idea or any concept for fiction is bad in and of itself. It's all about execution.
Yeah.
For example, you have, space cats show up on foreign planet with magical sword. It's really silly when you say it out loud, but when you get down to the deep aspects of it or how it's written, it can be very compelling or it can be completely off-putting. And you can do that with any sort of fiction. Giant robots that turn into vehicles fighting war for millions of years and nobody learns anything. That's also a concept that sounds really bizarre when you say it out loud, but it stood the test of time for 37 years at this point.
Yeah, and the reason why it works is because that's basically it's just the vehicle, and that's not the foundation of it. The foundation of it is the character development, the personalities, how everyone's interacting.
Absolutely. So we got any other questions or comments from the chat or anything else you want to talk about, NekoBoy? Any questions, comments, insults, threats?
Certainly none of those. I think nerd culture does enough of that on its own.
I don't know, man. I like picking fights with morons sometimes. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about people on Twitter.
Yeah, I won't argue with you there.
Yeah, I got a 12-hour ban once for calling somebody sport. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that one.
Really?
Yeah, it was amazing.
It's okay. That's not a slur. It's not an insult, really. I mean, it's slightly demeaning.
Which was my intention.
Yeah. Wow, I can't believe that was actually worth that. What? I mean, it's not like you're a political channel or anything, so I don't see their motivation.
No, I made one joke, or not even a joke, more of a comparison concerning Trump. That's the only time I've ever gotten political, and there are still people getting mad at me about it. I'm like, look, I hate every politician. I hate all politics. That's part of who I am. Like, yeah, if you don't like that I talked about Trump, like, insert your most hated politician of choice, and it stays the same.
Yeah, when it comes to politics, you can never appease everyone.
No, and that's why I don't.
Yeah, you just have to say what you believe in, be open to changing.
And then we have old Marmaduke constantly getting into fights. No, by all means, Stunty, if you want to ask all the questions in the world, you're more than welcome to. Why don't you go ahead and take a peek at that question there, NekoBoy?
Hate to go again right away. Oh, you shouldn't, because you're giving us food for thought. But anyways, but do either of you think the 2011 series could get a continuation on Netflix or elsewhere due to fan presence like Young Justice? And my answer, unfortunately, is no, because while that is a very valid avenue, as we've seen it working more than well with Voltron and it's coming up with Young Justice, I don't think there's enough people interested in having a ThunderCats on Netflix. Now, I want it to happen, but I think there was a much bigger revolt when Young Justice went off, since DC in general just has a bigger fan base.
Well, here's a nitty-gritty of it, all right? And this is going to upset some people. Not that I think they're going to say I'm wrong, because they can't. Here's the difference. The biggest petition we had to try to get a second season, which was headed, by the way, by Daniel Norton and Matthew Mercer. So we had the art director for the show and the voice actor for Tigra heading this thing. It had several, I think about 10,000 signatures. And the day we were going to submit it to Cartoon Network, it got deleted. And it got deleted because somebody was breaking contract with it, is my guess. And we've never been able to get a petition back up that's that big, and I don't think it would matter if we do. And here's why. To continue the 2011 series, you would have to do one of two things. You would have to get the entire staff and crew back together, which is very, very expensive.
For any show.
Or you would have to subcontract out to another studio. And either way, they're both very, very expensive, and they don't have any evidence to show that it would be worth it. And part of that's due to Warner Brothers consistently mismanaging the brand. Neko, you know anime. How well do you know Gundam?
On the surface level, I know enough.
Okay, are you're familiar that it's a pretty massive franchise, right?
Oh yeah, especially when it comes to models.
Oh, absolutely. I run the Gundam Club here, but
Hmm.
here's the thing. There was an awesome statue done by Connecticut's, and it was Lion-O fighting Mumra, and it was going to be a good $1,000 for the statue, and it was fantastic looking. They got the rights from Warner Brothers to sell and license the statue, but only in Southeast Asia. And the reason why I brought up Gundam is because if it was a Gundam statue, they wouldn't have had a single problem. In order to go into production, they had to pre-sell. That's just like initial down payment for 250 statues. They couldn't even get to 50.
My question is, how many ThunderCats fans are in Southeast Asia?
None.
So why did they only allow it there? That's my question.
Because Warner Brothers makes some really dumb decisions with this brand, my dude. Like,
I mean,
you've been watching it like I have, you would know they do not make any good decisions with this license.
yeah, because I mean, ThunderCats really has never broke beyond the Western market, so I have no idea why they thought that would be remotely okay.
I don't think they did. I think they devalue it. I don't know who's behind it. I don't know who runs their licensing, but I think he either is completely incompetent or he just does not like this property. Because here's the thing: it's not just that statue. They screwed up with the light. They screwed up with Mattel as well in 2016, or not 2016, 2014 or 15. Can't remember what. Mattel announced that they had purchased the ThunderCats license to make a collector's line under their Matty Collector license, just like they did for the He-Man line. And right after they announced when the first figure is going to be shipped, they announced that, oh, we're closing Matty Collector, by the way. So this license we just spent a bunch of money on, yeah, we're not going to have it anymore. And it took them years to just negotiate this because Warner Brothers is that anal about this license. Very rarely will they license it out to a company worth their salt. So you have Funko that's had the license. So I don't know why, but they keep making those bad decisions. Let's see here.
I'm wondering if it's just there's one higher up who doesn't like it and everyone else below just have to go with it.
Here's my theory. They see all these other 80s properties doing really well, and they try to market ThunderCats the same way. But among the 80s bigwigs, ThunderCats is a more minor player. So instead of banking on it in a smart way, they try to put it out like it were Transformers or Voltron or He-Man or G.I. Joe, and it just doesn't work. All right, we have Cadno 2099. What do you think of the difference in Chitara's character from the original to the 2001? Firstly, the 2001 character is younger, of course. I think they're both good characters. I question the modern Chitara's outfit, but other than that, I don't have any problems with her.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think both are fine in their own right, and I guess the outfit's doable.
Let's see, Hipster Sister, who broke contract? I don't know. It was either Daniel Norton or Matthew Mercer. That much I do know.
Well, and kind of going back to earlier.
Go ahead.
One thing I think they should have done with the show, like you said, because it has a smaller market, and I think you said in your art stream that ThunderCats fans are lazy.
Yes.
Am I right?
Very, very lazy. Look at our wiki sometime.
Well, anyways, what they did when they were Cartoon Network was airing SWAT Cats, so another cat franchise. When they got to the second season, they upped the budget for animation.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't do high, expensive animation right out of the get-go, and I think that could have worked, at least from a financial standpoint, if they did that. True,
and a lot of series are like that. Let's see here. DreamWorks would handle it better, I bet, says Stuntzy. How did WB acquire rights? They didn't acquire it, they bought it. They bought the entire Rankin Boss library sometime in the early 90s when Rankin Boss closed its doors.
And if they're just going to sit on it, I feel like they might as well just sell it. They're obviously going to make more money.
I have literally emailed them and called them asking if they are willing to sell it. That way I can find out how much they want for it and see if I can find people who want to invest in this sucker.
I would invest in it, but I'm a college student working at Arby's.
I don't know, man. You could send us a bunch of roast beef cheddars.
Oh, in fact, I just remembered, like on Twitter and Facebook, they do a lot of like whoever does their marketing is great because they like do cutouts with the boxes and food to.
They do, and they've done
Yeah,
one,
like
they've done one with ThunderCats.
Yeah, they should
do more. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, they might listen to a manager. Who knows?
All right. Hipster Sister says, I thought Hasbro could do an interesting job with the IP. They had the hub. Well, they don't have the hub. The hub actually failed. So now it's Discovery Kids or Discovery Family. I liked the hub when it was around because I'm an old fogey. So I like being able to turn on the TV and seeing, you know, the original G.I. Joe or Gem. But Hasbro does decent with some of their IPs, but they mishandle a lot of it too. G.I. Joe hasn't been given any decency since 2009. Eve La Renaissance, what's wrong with her outfit? It's not really conducive to that of a runner to have that much of an open chest. And that's not me trying to kink shame her or whatever the word is.
It's just practical.
Yeah, it's just like things are going to be flopping when you be running, yo.
And something interesting, I actually read an article on this, I think like a year ago, about a female armor, how you don't want it conforming to the breast because that's actually more dangerous.
Yeah, because the moment you fall or somebody hits you, it's going to break your ribs.
Yeah, all the impact's going to go to your chest.
Exactly. And I did a video concerning the new She-Ra. And, you know, somebody was saying, well, if that's armor underneath her shirt, it's not the correct armor. Like, here's male armor, a male chest plate or a cuirass, and here's a female's. There is no difference between them. So if you want armor, it doesn't need to be form-fitting because it's not going to help you. Its purpose is to deflect blows, not to make it hit you harder.
Yeah, and just a little quick side quest. I'm surprised how much backlash the new She-Ra is getting, because compared to ThunderCats Roar, which looks like a bunch of amoebas, the art looks fine to me personally.
Well,
we haven't even got a trailer yet, so we have no idea what the writing's like.
First and foremost, you would have to understand how the Motu, Masters of the Universe, or Pop community is, which Princess of Power. That's the original She-Ra. If you were to go on Facebook and join any He-Man or She-Ra group and just lurk and watch, you're going to find out real quick why this type of outrage happens. A lot of them don't watch any modern cartoons. They're literally stuck in the 80s. And that's not to say the people on my channel or that I talk to are like that. They're absolutely not. But instead of giving something a chance, they immediately decry it without knowing anything. People say, well, I don't like the animation style. It's like, they haven't shown any animation. What are you talking about? Yeah. They don't have an actual argument. They just don't like the fact that it's different. Well, why can't she be like the original She-Ra? Well, here's why. Well, I don't like that. Well, that's fine. You don't have to like it, but some of the things that are being said and some of the hot takes out there are just absolutely asinine. If you ever decide to take a look, I've got a video where I tear into the quartering because he made an absolute mule of himself trying to talk about the new She-Ra.
Yeah, like a lot of people are talking about it being like SJW propaganda, and kind of like I was saying before, we haven't heard any voice acting, no script, no trailer, no nothing. So,
well, here's the kicker. There is one name known very well within the Motu and Pop community, and that's James Etalk. James Etalk is like the grandmaster of all things He-Man when it comes to animation and all that. He has a lot. He has the original Filmation He-Man story Bible. He has character references, designs. He even ran the official UK He-Man YouTube channel. He is that ingrained in this franchise at this point. And he looked over the first few scripts from the new She-Ra and the new story Bible and gave it his complete blessing. And this is a man, he's not some random person on the internet. He's not some clown that pretends like the original cartoon. This is a man that everyone knows by name, and they still don't want to give it a chance. And as far as the whole SJW, this, that, or the other, I always require one thing of people. If you make a claim, provide evidence. And so far, I have yet to see somebody provide to me efficient evidence to show me that their claim is accurate. Just look at her design is not a claim to substantiate such a statement.
Yeah, and I'll make sure to not keep this too political, since, to be fair, SJWs ruin everything, so most normal people aren't going to like it. So, like, as a libertarian, of course, I don't like SJWs because they try to be very controlling of people's lives, but I feel like people are getting a little hysterical, and I think part of that has to do with the media blowing up everything and training us to find everything political, which takes the fun out of so many stuff.
There's also this spirit of self-righteousness that all these different sides also have, and I experienced this back when I was a kid in the 80s, man. One of the series I'm actually going to be breaking down on my channel is a video, and if you decide to really have your mind melt, it's a series that's called Deception of a Generation. And it's where this man in the 80s sits down with another man on a program called The Eagle's Nest, a Christian television program. And I'm a Christian myself, so I'll be doing it from a theological viewpoint. But he tries to tell you how every single one of these cartoons and 80s toy lines are of the devil, and they're going to make your kids turn to the demonic.
And that's what started the whole Christian media stuff.
No, that started back in the 70s.
No.
Because at first Dungeons and Dragons comes out and everybody loses their freaking minds on it. And then it just pours out. Now, what it is on says, I think part of the outrage was because of Noelle Stevenson. I haven't seen Noelle post very much about it other than the jackets that says she wrote, which, you know, if they have an entire writer's room filled with women, to me, that doesn't matter. I don't really care. As long as they're not doing what some of the ThunderCats Roar people are doing and getting little pins that say childhood ruiner, that to me doesn't spark enough vindictiveness or hatefulness for me to want to tear into that. And no, Hipster Sister, you're not out of place at all.
They made pins.
Yes, they had somebody from Walt Disney's animation studio make pins for them. Now, I will say this. Go ahead.
Like, you don't. Okay, first of all, you don't attack your market, and number two, that's just waving off criticism. It's like even the level-headed ones.
Absolutely. Now, I think what NekoBoy is referring to, Hipster Sister, is people who are obsessive with their socio-political ideology to the point to where they want to attack other people for what they enjoy. So if we're talking about people who are, you know, out there fighting for individual rights or something like that, that's less of an issue as opposed to if I were to, I don't know, post a picture of the original Conan the Barbarian from Frank Franzetta's work, and I have somebody yelling at me on Twitter saying that it's misogynist because the woman doesn't have, I don't know, armor. I think that's probably more of the type that NekoBoy is referring to, because I know that, Hipster Sister, you're very progressive. So no, you're not out of place here. Everyone's welcome at a place at the table to sit and discuss their ideals. It's no worry.
Yeah, our only concern is like people politicizing what's not political or trying to force their ideology into stuff when we just want to have a good time.
And there are ways to have discussions via animation or via comics, but you have to be smart about it, and you've got to be on very baseline. Well, if you're not progressive, Sister Hipster, maybe semi. Okay, why do you feel out? Why do you feel out of place? It's okay. Nope, nobody here's judging nobody. Nobody here's making fun of anybody. I mean, unless you guys want to make fun of me, which I'm completely cool with. I can roll with anything. I'm in my 30s, man. I don't care anymore.
Yeah, everyone's open to the stream. There's no wall, no nothing.
Any other questions, comments, concerns, insults, threats on my life? I've had some.
We went through lots of concerns, actually. I'm trying to think how much more there are. I'm sure we can dig for some.
I mean, I've been doxxed. I've had people try to dox me for worse. So,
jeez.
It's kind of funny. Like, I get some people really mad over really dumb things.
That's called the internet.
Yeah. You ever had somebody try to find out where you live because you said Superman could beat He-Man in a fight? I have.
Whoa. Oh, that's what. I got nothing for that. I got nothing.
See here.
Oh.
All right, we're just going to wait a little bit here and see what they say.
See if anything else comes to mind.
Yep.
And for those of you who don't know, I did make a video sharing my 2 cents on the ThunderCats series, so you can check that out on my channel. I think I expressed a lot of it here. But yeah, if you look at the trailer, like they didn't even think out the jokes. My magic slicing stick.
Yeah.
Anyone, a 5-year-old, I would have thought that was funny at 5 years old. Like, that's, I mean, okay, now I don't like Teen Titans Go, but now and then they have some good jokes. They actually try, and
Teen Titans Go.
I got none of that from the ThunderCats trailer.
Teen Titans Go has the advantage of being able to use literally the entire DCU to make jokes about.
Yeah, they have enough fuel. They don't have an excuse.
Okay, Sister Hipster, if you don't like the new She-Ra design, that's cool. It's completely cool. I will never silence somebody's opinion. If you don't like the design, you don't like it. That's fine. What we're discussing are people who see the design and immediately make assumptions about why the design is that. Well, this is done by SJWs. They're trying to make this character a boy. It's like, well, it could be an animation in between. Let's see. And some boobs.
Yeah. I mean, like, and I think I can't remember where I said this. I've talked so much about these subjects, but I mean, armor's gonna, at least if it's realistic armor, it's not really gonna show your figure, regardless of your gender.
True. Let's see here. Stuncy asks, who would win in a fight, 2011 Lion-O or original?
Definitely the original.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with the original for 2 reasons. Actually, more than 2 reasons. But first thing is 2011 Lion-O is 17. The original Lion-O is literally built like a bodybuilder and has actual meta-human abilities. And if it comes down to a sword fight, well...
the other one's toast, and...
Yeah, the original...
Well, on the bright side, Lion-O, the hero he is, would give him mercy.
Of course, but like the original Sword of Omens, if you get further into the series, that thing is crazy overpowered. Like that sucker literally holds a planet together.
Ooh, is that in the comics or the show?
That's in the show. Let's see. It can fly across the galaxy in under a couple of seconds. It can hold a planet together. It can blot out the sun.
So they have warp technology.
Something like that.
Close enough.
And let's see. Speaking of modesty issue, yeah, because you got to keep in mind this new She-Ra is also a younger girl, and the last thing I really want to see is a whole bunch of sexualized underage girls. I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't mean to take a shot at NekoBoy's interest here, but I'm not from Japan, so not so much.
No, I mean, not to mention this is aimed towards kids, so
yeah, this
isn't like. With anime, half of it's towards adults anyways, so...
And speaking of body armor, Lion-O, Armor of Omens. I like the design for the most part of the Armor of Omens, but never saw enough of it. And yes, with Renaissance, it blocked out the sun. It did a lot of really crazy things.
That's like Dragon Ball level
I'd
OP.
actually say it's beyond that. And simply because it... Okay, here's the thing. The Sword of Omens has dominion over... literally any other magic. It has dominion over all technology. It's able to warn you when somebody's trying to attack you. It can transport you to different dimensions, banish other things to different dimensions, hold planets together, blot out the sun, fly across galaxies, drill to the center of planets. I could keep going, but these are things this thing is actually done.
I can name like 5 different shows those powers come from: Yu-Gi-Oh, Star Trek, Dragon Ball.
Oh man, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that where Lion-O trusts in the heart of the cards?
Well, I was thinking of like banishing people to other dimensions.
Oh come on, we know what they meant when they said they were banishing people.
Yeah, 4Kids was not subtle.
Well, the funny thing is, Lion-O's dad actually did banish someone to an actual shadow realm.
Uh-huh. Although on the bright side, 4Kids is out of business, so we can.
You know, a lot of people give 4Kids a lot of grief, but I don't so much because I'm an '80s kid and I've seen worse.
That's fair. One of my biggest grievances with 4Kids is how they tried Americanizing stuff, thinking, "Oh, American kids won't understand." But in my opinion, I'm thinking, number one, that's an opportunity to teach them about another culture, and number two, I knew what a rice ball was when I was 7.
Excuse me, rice ball? I'm sorry, sir. That's a donut. A jelly-filled donut.
How dare you? Oh, Renaissance, I know exactly who you're talking about. That's all I'm going to say.
Let's see here. No, we don't talk about that guy. Ever.
Not here, at least.
Not anywhere to me. Like, I have very strong opinions about that man. Let's see. Sword of Omens.
I respect those completely.
Sword of Omen forged by Woden with the heart of a dying Krypton as Goku escaped the planet and the Death Star was attacking it. Goku can't survive in space, though.
Yeah, he needs oxygen.
And oddly enough,
to be fair, I agree. He who shall not be named creeps me out too.
Yeah.
Anyways,
in the original ThunderCats, they never, in the cartoon at least, they never went into the origin of the Sword of Omens at all.
Oh, that's right. I think they did in the 2011 series, like it was forged from a planet or something.
Yeah, it was forged from the heart of a dying star. Actually, the leftover pieces of the forging from the heart of a dying star.
From the Plundar Galaxy.
Yeah, and then we, in the original comics for the UK, it actually gave an origin for the Sword of Omens, but it was a very oddball one. It was given to the first Lord of the Thundercats off the side of a mountain, very Moses-like in how it's described. But let's see here. Nothing beats a jelly-filled donut. Absolutely. I meant while he was still in the pod. I don't know. We just found out in the comics, actually, that Krypton got destroyed by a person. Like, there's this creature, apparently, that hates Kryptonians and wants them wiped out, so he destroys whatever planets they're on. Of course, something similar happened to Thundera in the original cartoon. I don't know if you're aware of that.
I'm not as familiar with the original cartoon. I don't remember what destroyed it.
You don't find out until the second season, but...
okay.
Oddly enough, it's kind of Jaga's fault. You see, you notice Mum-Ra's sword in the 2011 series, right?
Right.
That's based on the Sword of Plundar that shows up in the second season of ThunderCats. That was originally a weapon that the mutant general Ratilla had. And Jaga defeated him and cast the Sword of Plundar into the molten core of Thundera. And the Sword of Plundar, being a sentient demonic entity, tried to fight its way out and blew the planet up in the process.
Huh.
Yeah, here's the kicker. That's the weakest magic sword in the entire series, and it's a planet buster.
I thought Jaga was the wise one.
He is, but who can perceive? If I throw this weapon into the core of the planet, this is totally going to blow it up. Nobody can see that coming. Come on. You assume it would melt.
I mean, it's a sword. It's like being generous for 5 feet long, and then you have a planet which is thousands of miles deep.
Which, in fairness, is bigger than 5 feet long, generally.
Yeah.
You don't need to explain everything.
Either way, that's, for being one of the weakest swords, yikes.
Yeah, that is the weakest magical sword in the original ThunderCats.
Don't give that to the Empire.
No spoilers. Come on, Sister Hipster. This thing's been around for 31 years. Oh, you're watching it. Okay, well, then I will not spoil any further.
We'll try not to. We're sorry.
I would think, Wolfen, that Jaga would not have done so had he that foresight. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he just got really lazy that day and decided he didn't walk any further. It's like, you know what? I'm just gonna throw this thing down, in the hole here. Ain't nothing gonna happen.
Yeah, it's like, why build a Death Star? Why build a small moon when you can just have a sword to destroy a planet?
Let's see here. No worries, Sister Hipster. I'm just giving you some grief. Let's see here. As far as the mutants blowing up Thundera, I don't think they'd be smart enough. No, the Sword of Omens did not see that coming. Then again, in theory, until the mutants attacked while they were leaving their planet, everybody was fine. But no, somebody wanted to be a prick. All right, any other questions or comments?
I have a question. In fact, do you know the Angry Video Game Nerd?
I'm aware. I know him.
So James Rolfe did aside from his nerd character, he does like his own videos on like horror movies or whatever properties, and he was talking about like when he grew up with ThunderCats, and he brought up an interesting question that even I'm not sure. So why in the first episode are they naked, and then later on they're clothed throughout?
Well, the thing is, we don't actually know if they are naked. You would assume so, but if you look at them, it looks like they're wearing trunks, and some of them have belts on. So the question is, are they just really color-forming unitards, or are they actually naked?
Or, trying to think, maybe because they weren't prepared for battle, they didn't have armor on, I guess?
I think it's to symbolize the fact that they were going from innocence, from being on their own world, where they didn't need any of that, into the treacherous unknown, where it's best to be clothed and have weapons to defend yourself.
More of that biblical stuff.
Yeah, because if you notice, Jaga was clothed the entire time. Well, I mean, I would hope it would have some biblical reference. The episode's name is literally Exodus.
Although Exodus has become a noun in the English vocabulary for...
Absolutely, but the next episode's name is The Unholy Alliance. And Mumra is a literal devil priest.
I see where you're going.
There's only so much I can chalk up to coincidence, in my opinion. And no, I would not let Seth MacFarlane do the ThunderCats reboot.
I don't want a comedy. I want an action show, darn it. Granted, I love the Orville. It's better than the new Star Trek going on right now, but he should not touch ThunderCats.
No, and Panthro was just free balling. No. Panthro is a dignified man, I will have you know. That is stated in the text from Leonard Starr when they were conceptualizing these characters. He is a dignified man who is supposed to represent black culture. I mean, he is a Black Panther, literally, so that makes sense. I mean, he was voiced by Grandpa Huxtable. How could you go wrong? All right, so we're gonna close up here. I'm gonna give him another couple minutes. If you got any other questions, feel free to ask, and I'll make sure the chat does so too. Anything else on your mind, NekoBoy?
I think we went through a lot today. ThunderCats wise, I don't think I have anything else.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure we will chat off and on as the days go on, but my entire channel for the most part is ThunderCat related. If you ever want to dig in, are there any topics you want to see me cover in my videos?
Yeah, and if I come up with any more ideas or whatever, I'll let you know.
Rad. Thundera forever, Wakanda forever. Yes. I'm gonna give it another minute, and then we'll go ahead and say goodbye.
These deals aren't gonna last for long, people.
Are there any other black-coded characters in the series? Panther, of course, was one of them. I can't remember if there is another one.
He's like the Lando of ThunderCats.
Yeah, except he hits you in the face with nunchucks instead of betraying you.
Oh, you're right. That does not look good for. Yeah.
I don't think there's any other black-coded characters in ThunderCats other than Wiz-Ra, who was a classical Egyptian, but I know that Tiger Sharks had a character, I believe, and so did Silverhawks, and both of them are tangentially linked to ThunderCats because they were done by the same studio. 80s Robo having one token character. The difference is, Wendy, a lot of token characters exemplify stereotypes of individual races or cultures. You look at Panthro, he's black, but he doesn't exemplify any of the stereotypes.
Well, yeah, like it doesn't define him.
No. What defines him... Go ahead.
I was going to say, what makes a token character is when his personality is his race or whatever. Whereas, yeah, he's He's just Panthro, who
Panthro's
happens to be a Black Panther.
Yeah, and Panthro's defining personality is don't you touch his tank. God help you if you touch his tank.
Or you get the nunchucks.
You get the nunchucks to the face, which oddly enough had to be edited out of the UK run because reasons.
Considering what the UK is going through now, I'm not surprised.
Hey, Wolfen, I will have you know, ThunderCats is extremely diverse. It has a black character. It has 2 blind characters.
There's all species of cats. They're all represented.
All species of cats. They even have a villain that is physically handicapped. Luna from the Lunatacs is actually one of the most diverse cartoons of the 80s, if not ever. It's got a whole slew of different diverse characters. Now, I know you were just kidding, but that's something I've actually wanted to touch on for a while.
Hey, that could make a good video, actually.
Yeah. And,
see, there you go. Your next video.
Dude, I have so much on my plate. It's going to take me a month to get to that. First, I got to get through Deception of a Generation. That's going to be a multi-part video series because if I try to go through every single thing mentioned in that series, it would take me 2 hours to go through it.
Yeah, I'll look forward to that one and be curious if I have anything to elaborate on.
Renaissance says he didn't have a license for them nunchucks, eh?
That would make a good meme. Just edit in like Panthro's face. Oh, you got a license.
You got a license for those nunchucks, mate. What?
To the slammer with you.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. And, of course, thank you, Neko, for joining me and chatting with me about ThunderCats. We'll have to do this again sometime, man.
Yeah, that was really fun.
Everybody, take care. I'm going to stop the broadcast.